The following program is sponsored by Happy Science.
Hello, and thank you for accepting our invitation to happiness. Ryuho Okawa is a global visionary, renowned spiritual leader, and international best-selling author. With his deep spiritual insight, wisdom, and compassion, Okawa is committed to guide people to true happiness and create a better world. To accomplish this, he founded Happy Science Group in Japan in 1986, which is now a global movement in over 100 countries. His vision and message to the world goes beyond the differences of race and language. Together, throughout this program, we will be exploring ways to attain true happiness from a spiritual perspective and how you can create a better world starting from within. Today's topic is on a very deep and sensitive subject, the subject of terminating life, such as abortion, brain death, coma, and suicide, cause a lot of confusion, mixed emotions, and pain. Our aim here is to offer relief and salvation while giving an explanation from a spiritual perspective in order for those who go through such circumstances to make an educated decision. In general, there are two kinds of death, one by natural causes through old age or illness, and the other by early termination. Of course, we cannot cover everything about these delicate subjects within 30 minutes. However, it is our sincere hope that people will open their eyes to what happens to these souls when they go through early life termination. Before we go deeper, let's ask the people in New York what they think happens to these souls.
Well, you can die inside and just kind of stagnate. You can kind of sell yourself out and forget, the reason you do the things you do. I think that's a kind of a Walking Dead kind of scenario.
I do believe there's something spiritual in death, and I do think there is a part of life that is kept after death. But I don't know if there's actually a physical place we go up into the clouds. I'm still debating on that every day of my life.
It's a tricky one for me because I really struggle. I come from a family of very strong Christian faith, and they all believe in the afterlife, and I really don't know. And I'm honest. I say I don't know what comes next, and if you truly don't know, you can't say with certainty. So I'd like to think the soul leaves the body and goes somewhere else, but I don't know.
First, let's hear from Okawa about eternal life and the truth about human souls.
There are many religious teachings and various kinds of enlightenment at Happy Science. People living in this world have many sufferings. But the most important thing in life is to understand that our souls have eternal life. To acknowledge and understand that our soul is eternal is equivalent to gaining a lifetime of treasure. However, for the people who do not realize that the soul is eternal and think that humans only worry and suffer and end up just dying, this world would be nothing other than a world of suffering. It will be nothing but pure suffering. We should realize that we humans, prior to being born, have splendid and mature souls as children of God and Buddha. And even after we die, our souls continue to exist eternally. Nothing goes in vain during this life of several decades. We were shining souls as children of God and Buddha before being born into this world. And during the decades in this lifetime, accumulating various experiences, we refine our souls even further, transforming and enriching our personalities and characters. By living this life, our souls gain added value. Being born in this era, perhaps there are many people who are experiencing new occupations or jobs that did not exist in their past lives. You must all be gaining new occupational experience that did not exist when you were born in Japan or other countries in your past lives. Being born into this world is a risky gamble for each soul. Originally, souls reside contentedly in heaven, where it is filled with happiness. As souls, we would choose our parents, ask to be their child, wait for our parents to get married on earth, and for our mother to become pregnant. Then we can dwell in her womb. Then, on the 8th or the 9th week, the soul enters the womb. The soul enters the womb around the 9th week, but preparation for birth would have already begun in heaven. And for at least 38 or 40 weeks, or for almost a year, the soul is entrapped in the mother's womb, just like a silkworm wrapped in its cocoon. The mental state of the soul is like this. During this period, accidents such as miscarriages can happen, but the soul cannot complain. Thus, the soul experiences fear of not knowing what will happen. Before birth, about half of all souls are anxious that they might fail in life after being born. The souls are aware that they might fail in their life on earth and go through suffering, and that there is also possibility for them to end up in hell for decades after they die. However, they think that even if half of them end up failing, and they do end up in hell for a few hundred years after death, the opportunity to go through soul training in this modern advanced era is such a rare and exciting experience that it is worth taking the risk of being born. Even if one's life is cut short due to illness in childhood or in a traffic accident, having received a life in this lifetime is a precious experience. It means that the soul as a consciousness has gained a new experience. This is the reason we repeat reincarnation over and over again for dozens, hundreds, or even greater number of times, going through the various patterns of life. We are born into a male body, and other times in a female body, going through a variety of different experiences. For example, a man who was excessively autocratic and violent towards others in his past life may be reborn as a woman, so that he can gain the experience of looking back at himself from the opposite standpoint and consider others' feelings. The system of reincarnation allows us to enrich our lives by going through various experiences. As we live in this world, when we come across worries, suffering, and setbacks, we might think, I want to avoid this. Why do I have to face such hardship? If I were an angel or archangel or an angel of light, I would not have to meet with such suffering. I should be able to live more happily. I might be cursed for having such a hard life. But that is not true. The perspective of this world and the other world is reversed. When viewed from the other world, the life of a person who is undergoing suffering looks thrilling and is considered to be an elite soul that is going through tough training that will strengthen the soul. So we should not just complain about the problem, but consider it as tackling a math or foreign language problem. You should try to think, even though the problem is very difficult, it's challenging and stimulating to my soul. This is, in fact, quite fun. Or, if I work on it for an hour, I may gain that much more strength. However, if you wish to live a life with greater happiness, you should consider advancing your way of thinking a step further. Ultimately, the sense of happiness grows bigger if you could accept the way of thinking that the soul or the spiritual body is your true self, and that the physical body is nothing more than clothing. Being born or dying are equivalent to putting on and taking off your clothes. Death is merely the soul removing or changing its clothing. For example, you put on a suit when you go out to work and take it off when you come home. This returning home is equivalent to returning to the other world or spirit world after death. This is the system of reincarnation. The other world, called the real world, is your original home, your home ground. The body we dwell in this life will perish after about 100 years. However, we should not lament that. I hope you can change your perspective around like this. When we look at our lives in this way, everything in our life starts to look differently. I hope you can accept this spiritual truth and live accordingly. Then, the various hardships and difficulties in this world will become enjoyable.
It is important to know that the essence of a human being is the soul, and the soul has eternal life. Through numerous reincarnations, we accumulate new experiences and attain wisdom that cultivates our souls. Obstacles in life are like math drills. The more we tackle them, the better and wiser we become. Family members, such as our parents, children, spouses, and siblings, are actually souls that are deeply connected to us spiritually. The ties go beyond past, present, and future. We repeat reincarnation together to learn from each other, changing roles and sometimes even gender. We are not born by coincidence and choose to be born under the given circumstances. Realizing this will make our lives even more meaningful.
It was in my late 20s, after I attained spiritual powers, that I spoke to a young woman who told me that her father had died in a traffic accident 5 years ago. After a while, I saw the spirit of her father. He was possessing her from behind. The father spirit then came to me, so I made effort to persuade him and talk to him for about an hour. He was in the exact same condition as when he died in the traffic accident. He was suffering in terrible agony. So I talked with her father's spirit, but since traffic accidents happens all of a sudden, of course, he wasn't ready for it. Without any time to think about what would happen to his family, and right in the middle of everything at work, he had suddenly lost his life. For 5 years, the father spirit had wandered about with his skull split open, and a great deal of blood pouring out of his head, saying, "It hurts. Somebody help me." Usually, after you die and become a spirit, there should be no pain or blood at all. People who are studying Happy Science teachings would understand this, and a peaceful world will await those who are aware of this. But when an individual believes 100% that their physical body is who they really are, this is not the case. If they are run over by a dump truck and their body is mangled, pouring with blood, they will believe 100% that that is their true self. Even if you try telling these people that they are now spiritual beings without their physical bodies, and that their physical body has been cremated and is no longer existent, these people who died with such a state of mind will still continue crying in pain because they wouldn't have seen their own funeral. They will still be suffering in pain, covered in blood, in the spirit world. So people who die from an illness or a traffic accident would remain in their critical condition. Likewise, if someone dies of stomach cancer and their corpse is cremated in a crematorium, their physical body no longer exists and they should not have a stomach to cause them any pain. But the pain of their stomach cancer will stick with them for years after they have passed away. Even people who suffered and died from a heart failure, who had their bodies cremated, will still find themselves short of breath and will complain of chest pains. In short, and they have not cultivated their mind. So these people believe that their spirit is made up of their brain and nerves, just like how the doctors told them. This is their level of enlightenment. To these people, their physical body is who they are, so they continue suffering after death. If they are receiving medical treatments in their last moments, the pain will be passed on to their spiritual body and will stick with them after death. I myself have witnessed many of these situations, so death doesn't relieve your pain. You will still feel the pain.
The soul continues to exist after death. Not understanding this spiritual truth makes it difficult for when it comes time to cross over. We must know that the brain is not what determines human life or death. the soul does. In other words, the brain can be compared to a car and the mind or soul to a driver. We should not be attached to our bodies. We must realize the importance of knowing spiritual truth while still alive on earth and strive to cultivate our minds and souls instead. With this in mind, let us move on to the next lecture that explains what happens to the souls that undergo abortion and organ transplant.
I clearly state that a human being is in existence predestined to die 100%. In other words, we should plan our life based on the fact that we will die someday. I am telling you to construct your lives on the truth that one day we will die. Furthermore, we must know that the world after death does exist. I have stated this repeatedly. Only someone like myself, who have experienced numerous spiritual phenomena, can say this with conviction. Thus, I am making this point whenever I can. Human beings are born while crying and die while crying, or people around the deceased will cry and say farewell. It may be sad, but there is a misunderstanding for both occasions. Why are babies born crying? It would make more sense for them to be born happy and laughing. So why should they cry? The fact is that the soul of a child stays in the mother's womb for 10 months in darkness, waiting to be born into this world. During this time, the child is filled with the sorrow of loneliness, and even worrying whether he or she can be born safely. The child is filled with anxiety and fear, so it experiences a great sense of relief and happiness at birth, which is expressed through crying. The soul of a child worries whether he or she can be born safely, not only in the mother's womb, but since coming to an agreement with the parents-to-be in the heavenly realm, and through the period of preparation for a new life. This is particularly true in a country like modern Japan, where a large number of abortions take place. Some parents want to abort after their baby is already in the mother's womb. The mother may say, "I am pregnant, but I want to keep my job, so I want an abortion." Or the father may say, "I don't want any children," and abort the child. The child's soul may call out to them saying, "That's ridiculous," but unfortunately that voice cannot be heard. Of course, sometimes it can't be helped due to circumstances. But in the case of a loving couple, I hope they would bear and raise the children that they conceive.
Abortion can be one of the most difficult choices in life, and if possible, it is best if you can avoid this decision. However, there are inevitable cases, such as when the mother's life is in danger, sexual assault, and for other physical or economical reasons. Nevertheless, by understanding spiritual truth, the most important thing is to recognize and respect the soul that wanted to be born. We must pray for that soul to return to heaven in peace without any grudge or pain in their hearts. At Happy Science, we offer specific prayers for aborted or miscarried children, as well as prayers for departed loved ones in order to offer salvation to these souls. Let's continue with more from Okawa.
I also believe that there's nothing wrong with organ transplants as long as the donor offers the organ as an expression of love without attachments and out of a desire to help somebody else. However, in most cases, people are unable to acknowledge their death, so they cannot cross over to the other side smoothly after death. These people usually spend a period of time in great confusion without any idea of what has happened to them. Even if they have offered to donate their organs while they were still alive, it is doubtful whether they can fully abandon their sense of belonging to their bodies or organs when it comes to transplant. In most cases, they have a strong attachment to their physical bodies, including organs, so they move into and possess the recipient's bodies. In fact, there are many cases reported where a person who has received a transplant undergoes a total change of character and becomes a different person altogether. You should know the truth behind this phenomenon. Sometimes the recipient's body will reject the donor's organ, but there are also a large number of cases where a person's character changes. This is because the recipient becomes totally possessed by the spirit of the donor. However, it is not easy to remove this possession. The donor's spirit insists that he or she owns the donated organ, which is a somewhat valid claim, so it is difficult to make the spirit leave from the recipient's body. The soul and the body are joined together by the invisible cord called silver cord. But when an organ is transplanted, a different soul will enter the recipient's body, so the recipient's body will house two personalities. If the donor happens to be a good, angelic person, then it is fine. However, there is a high chance of receiving organs from those who are not very good or healthy in the spiritual sense. If someone was to receive a heart from a gangster who had been killed in a shootout, then this person may undergo a major personality change. So nobody would want to receive an organ from an evil person because the donor's evil character may be passed on. Stray spirits can possess people living in this world even without direct physical connection, but an organ transplant will provide a foundation that serves as a strong foothold for them. Spirits who are attached to this world will utilize this foothold to possess the living indefinitely. A part of their consciousness remains with the recipient of the organ, making them extremely difficult to drive out. In this way, organ transplant can be a frightening procedure without an understanding of the spiritual truth. I would like people to have this knowledge in advance.
Organ transplants are believed to be an act of giving, and indeed, there are many people who can be saved. However, when the soul of the donor does not know they have passed away, phenomena such as organ rejection or even a multiple personality disorder might occur. Therefore, without spiritual knowledge, it can be a risky procedure. The donor, recipient, and their families need to understand spiritual truth and be sure not to treat the organ as a material object. Next, let's move on to the subject of suicide.
There are people who do not realize that they are a spiritual being, a soul, even after they have died. I suppose that there are people who commit suicide, thinking that life will become easier if they pass to the other world. These people do not believe the other world exists. They think this world is full of pain, but life ends in this world. So if I die, my debts will disappear, the suffering from personal relationships will disappear, and the pain of being fired from my job will disappear. If I die, then all my problems will be solved. They then jump off a building or commit suicide in another way. It takes these spirits a long time to realize their existence as souls. As a result, even after they have arrived in the next world, they continue to commit suicide by jumping off tall buildings. When they do this, their bodies are smashed by the impact with the ground and blood flows from their wounds. It has the same effect as when they jumped into this world. Their bodies are destroyed and there is blood everywhere. They think, this time I have managed to die, but after a short while their bodies repair themselves and they return to their original state. They then stand up, climb to the top of the building, and jump off again, repeating this many times. After a while, they tire of this endless repetition and return to the building in this world where they originally committed suicide. They search for someone who looks as though he wishes to die, and possesses him, and they jump together. There are some cliffs by the sea that are famous for the number of suicides that happen there. The spirits of those who have previously committed suicide drag other people to their deaths. They look for someone who is wandering around, deep in worry, then possess him and make him feel that the spirit's emotions are his own, and let him commit suicide. In this way, they continue to increase their numbers until a specific spiritual field is created in that place, which becomes like a kind of hell. So hell can be created in places that are famous as sites for suicides. Not knowing the truth is indeed frightening. There are people who commit suicide without knowing that there is life after death, and there are others who do so while believing they will go to heaven. Unfortunately, both remain unable to enter heaven. Even though you die on earth, life continues in the next world. Your life is eternal, so if you want to return to heaven after you die, you must live with a mind that is in accordance with that of the inhabitants of heaven while you are still on earth. This is the requirement for returning to heaven. If you want to know whether you will go to heaven or not, Think about whether you have the same state of mind as the spirits in heaven. Do you think it is possible for people who have been driven into a corner and who die in anguish to return to heaven? Ask yourself this, and you will know the answer for yourself. In Japan, about 30,000 people a year commit suicide. It is a terrible thing, and of these people, approximately 20,000 are middle-aged or seniors who have come to a dead end in their work. There is an urgent need to stop these suicides, but without knowledge of the truth about the spirit world, it is impossible to find a countermeasure. What we must tell people who are thinking about committing suicide is to put aside their pride and vanity, because the only thing they can take back to the other world when they die is their own mind. No matter how hard their financial situation, no matter how their reputation or pride may be destroyed, it is always possible to make a fresh start. If you believe that life is limited to this world, then you will feel your future is hopeless and you may well want to die. However, life continues after death, and your suffering is increased tenfold or even hundredfold. I hope that on this occasion, you will reconsider the nobility of humankind and realize the meaning of your soul training here on earth. Please understand how important it is to live on the basis of the knowledge that life after death really does exist.
From the standpoint of eternal life, suicide is not the answer. Life is a school, and yes, it can be challenging. However, it is a training ground for refining our souls. Everything happens in life for a reason. Even if misfortune takes place, the important thing is how we get through tough times. We must understand that we all have purpose in life. And last but not least, never forget that God and angels are watching over and guiding us. God never gives us a burden we cannot handle. Knowing the spiritual truth about suicide makes it simply not worth it. If you or someone you know are depressed and considering suicide, please let us reach out and help. The fact that you still have life means that you can start over. At Happy Science, we offer many teachings related to today's topic. We also offer prayer for departed children, for deceased loved ones, and for ancestors. Please also watch our spiritual animated movie, The Laws of Eternity, which explains life after death and the spirit world in detail. We are here to support you in solving your life problems. Please do not hesitate to reach out. For more information, please contact a Happy Science location near you.
If you would like to learn more about Okawa and the teachings of Happy Science, visit invitationtohappiness.org or call us at 929-323-4737.
Once again, thank you for accepting our invitation to happiness. Join us next week for the topic, The Mindset to Grow Through Both Success and Failure, introducing invincible thinking. See you next time. Thank you for accepting our invitation to happiness.
In short, the only thing you can take back with you when you die is your mind, your soul. Not a single thing in this world can be brought back with you.
Where do we go when we die? The 9 dimensions uncovers the mysteries of the afterlife.
The preceding program was sponsored by Happy Science.
Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming on this day with a nice shower. The temperature is getting cooler, so I hope we're gonna see this cool weather for the next couple of weeks, but probably not. It's still August. But anyhow, thanks for coming. How was today's episode? Deep? Yeah. Extremely deep, and also at the same time filled with concrete experiences that Master Okawa has as a spiritual leader. And today, on this latter latter 30 minutes, what I would like to go over with you is we had a question from the TV, a person who watched the TV earlier, so I'm going to be answering some of the questions, but also just going over the main point. And if you guys have any questions too, please feel free to ask, and then let's go over these topics. So if you would go ahead and take a look at the screen. To start off with, today's topic was the spiritual truth behind abortion, brain death, suicide. It also even talked about organ transplants. But the main thing that Master Okawa is trying to tell us is that the spiritual world exists, and build your life upon that truth. Think about life from that perspective, that we have eternal life. And we also believe that this is the mission of a religion. Or in other terms, why religion itself exists. Why it has existed for all of these past... there was not a single time on earth when religion didn't exist. And if you think about it, Christianity has lasted 2,000 years. Buddhism, 2,600 years. Greek mythology, they go back 4,000 years. Egyptian mythology goes back 6,000, 8,000 years. Confucianism is a couple thousand years old too. Why does it always exist? And there's also new religions here right now after post-World War II and before World War II. Master Okawa explains that religion is necessary to tell the basic truth that everybody must know. So in this book, The Laws of Salvation, there's a section that talks about why religion is necessary. And I would like to read out just about 6 pages from this book. And it's going to be covering these topics that are on the screen. Just keep it here. And I quote, page 17, The Laws of Salvation. Why religion is necessary, basic truths that everybody must know. As a recommendation of religion, there are a few simple truths that I sincerely wish to tell everybody in the world. Firstly, please know that humans are essentially spiritual beings, and as spiritual beings, they inhabit physical bodies to live on earth. This is a basic truth that everybody must know. This truth has been taught by the major world religions and in fundamental philosophies of the past. The same concept is conveyed not only by large religions, but even by the smaller ethnic religions in each country. This is a very simple truth taught by religion. However, there are many people in Japan who cannot even overcome this first barrier to entering the world of religion. Many of the so-called intellectuals and elites cannot accept the basic truth that humans are spiritual beings who inhabit bodies to live on earth. The reason for this is twofold. One is the current school education where these concepts are not taught at all. The other reason is the mass media. The media, which lead today's democracy, have basically 2 stances toward religion. They either try to ignore it as much as possible, or they only report negative incidents related to it. Religion is judged unfairly by the mass media. In reality, the media offer neither support nor positive affirmative messages about religion. The social credibility of happy science. However, even in this environment, there are thoughtful people who look at happy science outside of the framework of religion and understand that our actions are sincere and passionate. They realize that our teachings are not something that delude the world, but are serious principles that enlighten and encourage people and try to open up a bright future. The growing public trust can be seen in the number of happy science ads that appear in newspapers. Although the mass media are normally uninterested in religion, we're able to advertise in newspapers. Happy science is one of very few religions able to do this in Japan. In Japan, you have many chances to see happy science posters in subway stations, as well as our advertisements for books and trains. When I gave a lecture in Sydney, Australia at the end of March 2009, there were also many ads in Sydney's public spaces. At the main bus stops and train stations throughout the city, there were posters, advertisements for my newly published book, The Laws of Courage. There were also posters at train stations and bus stops that said, "Who is Ryuho Okawa?" We're able to do this because Happy Science is trusted both in Japan and overseas. In this way, we're trying our best to raise public awareness about religion. Therefore, when recommending religion, we absolutely must teach the truth that human beings are essentially spiritual beings who dwell in physical bodies to live on earth. I want all people to know this truth. What divides heaven and hell? The second basic point is that in life, good and evil exist. In other words, there is a righteous way of living and a wrong way of living. In this world, the law plays a certain role in deciding what is good or evil. To some degree, what the law deems good or evil is a reflection of the thinking of high spirits in heaven or of God. However, the criteria for good and evil in heaven transcend what is decided by laws on earth. Whether or not you have broken the law on earth, in the end, you'll be asked if you truly lived with God's will as your will. Even after you die and your physical body perishes, your soul will still exist. Where your soul will go can be roughly divided into two worlds, heaven and hell. There are various ways to live, but nobody lives completely in goodness or completely in evil. So at the end of your life or some decades, you will be judged according to how much good or evil you did. After leaving this world, you will see your whole life played back on a screen and be judged. All people will experience this in the future. Religions do various activities so people will return to heaven. After a person's life is judged in terms of good and evil, he or she will either return to heaven or fall to hell. However, some people end up in hell, something that they may have only heard of in folklores, feel that this judgment process is unfair because they were not told about it in advance. It is natural for them to think, God is unfair. I wouldn't have committed such evil if I had known that I would face decades and centuries of misery and suffering in hell. In order to prevent this argument, I'm working day and night to preach the truth. In several decades, most people living today will die and leave this world. There's no problem for those who commendably return to heaven after they die. However, if people find themselves in hell, they often insist, I did nothing wrong, so why should I be in hell? What they mean by nothing wrong is that they did not break any laws in this world. So many of those who fall to hell say, I committed no crimes, and even if I did commit a crime, it was not important. I also did a lot of good, so it's unfair that I should be sent to hell. However, what they should be told at the time is the following. When you were alive, a religion called Happy Science published many books and showed movies to teach the truth. Do you remember their members passionately trying to teach the truth in public? Who was it who laughed at them? Who was it who labeled all religion a scam? Who did not lend an ear to them? Who else but you is responsible for this? Perhaps it would be unfair if you had been given neither guidance nor a chance to learn the truth. However, you were given many opportunities throughout your life. You must have seen their monthly magazines somewhere at least once. There are many books of truth in the bookstores, and there are various advertisements for Happy Science movies and lectures. You may have been invited to join Happy Science by your friends, or perhaps you attended one of their lectures. If you think about it, you've been given many chances to discover the truth. Yet at the time, unable to discover the true meaning of, realize or feel the truth, you rejected it, insulted, or ignored it. When people kindly recommended to you, you disregarded it, refused it, or laughed at it. These people sincerely wished for your happiness and tried to lead you to the truth with courage, goodwill, and compassion. But perhaps you offended, rejected, or made trouble for them. These people were actually angels or angels to be. If you were unmoved, felt negative, or were even offensive when you saw them passionately working, it means that your outlook on life opposed the light. Your way of life rejected the light, and darkness had crept into and around you. It was none other than you who attracted the darkness into yourself. These are the things that people must be told. In this modern era, we are guaranteed the freedom of speech and publishing, so a large variety of information is transmitted daily. There are myriads of books and movies in this world. There are loads of information, both heavenly and hellish, being produced in this world. However, what information a person is attracted to depends on the individual. Moreover, the final counting of your choices will show as a clear result. Please remember this. Thank you very much, Master Okawa. So, as Master has stated, the whole purpose of what we're trying to do is tell people the spiritual world exists. So it's kind of like traffic rules. A lot of people, especially these days, especially this century, people are seeking rather more freedom and rights, demanding their rights. Give me my rights. We always hear that a lot these days, right? And then it feels like it's good to help the oppressed people. Yes, it was like that. Of course, it was like that in this modern history where freedom was established through our democratic kind of political system. However, there's the laws of the pendulum. You can't always go to the extreme. You got to go back. Just if you think about it, what if there is a world with just freedom and no rules? What would it be like? I mean, if it was a world with the people who are watching this and people who are here in this room, I hope that that'll still be a good world. But to be honest, if you put your hand on your heart and close your eyes and ask yourself, even you, those that are using this day on a rainy day, coming to Happy Science, trying to elevate their souls and evolve their spirituality, we still make mistakes, don't we? So rules help us live in a harmonious, free world. And religion, why is it important? It gives us rules that transcend the laws that are created here on earth. It doesn't necessarily mean the laws that are created on earth are always right. Why? Just look at the process. It goes through an idea that some kind of mistake occurred. Therefore, in democracy, what they do is they come up with a lot of, I guess in Kantian terms, sober people around the table will come together and talk about what's good for other people, using the law that is said, don't do to others that you wouldn't like to be done to yourself. And then a law is created and it is passed and the bill is passed, and then people who infringe it or people who break it will obviously get caught by the cops. So that's how it is created. But through this whole process, yes, sometimes, as Master said in where I just read, it's guided by the heavenly spirits or even God. But sometimes it's not. Let's look at this infamous law that has passed in Hong Kong from the Chinese Communist Party, the National Security Law. Sounds nice, right? It's a national security law. But what they're actually doing is imprisoning people who are trying to find and seek freedom. So that's one good example right there. The laws are not always complete. Hence, what we need to do is, going back to what we saw today, we need to understand, we need to base this society on the fact that the spiritual world exists, one. And two, however, then what is the difference between spirituality and religion? These are my terms. It's not coming from Master, so if you can just take it with a grain of salt, it's just one minister of Happy Science saying this. But from my perspective, I think spirituality and religion, what's the difference, is wisdom. Religion has wisdom because it comes directly from heaven and God through the words of a savior, the chosen one that is sent on that planet to guide the earth. Spirituality is based on experiences. I'm not saying neglect all of it. There are definitely great experiences that people who go through spiritual phenomena, and it serves the people who are living very earthly, materialistically, to serve as great examples that the spiritual world exists. There's a lot of empaths that I talk to when I'm doing missionary work in the streets. It's a good thing that many people are experiencing this. However, what's dangerous is the spiritual world is a very subjective world. So it's really hard to grasp what the truth is that is truly applicable for the happiness and harmony and progress and prosperity of all humankind. It's so hard to reach that golden thread that's applicable to every single being in every different nation from different backgrounds of religion. There's only one person who can do that. That's the chosen one who's sent from God, who would be that savior in that era. So religion is filled with wisdom. It's like traffic rules to be able to live a harmonious spiritual life here on earth. So I just wanted to definitely mention this point that a role of a religion is extremely important. I know that some religions are wrong too. Unfortunately, not all religions are given in the purest forms. Hence, that's why I would like you to look at the time frame of how God is guiding humanity, that he would send a savior every once in a while to revamp the truth that was given by the original founder of that religion. And we're at that purest moment right now. And here's some recommended readings from today's episode: Healing from Within, The Mystical Laws, The Nine Dimensions. The one to the left is more focused on how spiritual teachings can apply to all sorts of different illnesses and the way to heal. And at the last section of this book, my goodness, it's so powerful. Master talks about one of our rituals that we have, El Cantata healing, the meaning of it. So it's filled with the power of healing of God's light, or Buddha's light. The one in the middle, The Mystical Laws, it's definitely eye-opening. It's a bold, courageous book to state that spirituality needs to be the main role of society. And he gives so much concrete examples, like you saw in the video today, today's TV program, of concrete experiences he had. And also, he also reads all these different spiritual books, right? And he compiles what is helpful for people to know. So he introduces many other spiritual authors in this book. It's a great compilation of being convinced that the spirituality is true. And then the one on the right, The Nine Dimensions, this is actually one of our trilogies in Happy Science, but definitely a good read for the whole picture of the whole structure of the spiritual world and how it is related to actually our daily lives. And then if you're not a bookworm, no worries. We also have YouTube videos. Sorry, not going in order. The one on the bottom, Coping with Death, this is a Sunday service that Dylan gave a couple weeks ago. It was done really well with his own experience of someone close to him passing away, and how knowing Happy Science teachings will help you soothe the pain of death. And then the one on the top, The Laws of Eternity. This is a great movie, and you can actually watch this whole movie for free on YouTube. Now, we don't know who's uploading this, but every time we delete it, it's re-uploaded by someone else. But they're trying to spread the truth, so we're letting it be. So go ahead. It's if you have a tinge of like regret or what's the word? What's the word? If you feel that you want to help us out after you watch this movie, please do a donation. But you can watch this movie for free, and I would like to show you an excerpt of a part of this movie. It's about 4 minutes.
So is this the river Styx?
Oh, look! Help me!
Those were his attachments in life. The things he didn't want to let go. When you are crossing this river, you must leave behind all your mortal attachments.
What are those strings?
They are silver cords. They connect the physical body and the soul. Usually, approximately 24 hours after the heart stops, these cords are cut off. That's when humans really die.
It's
those who've crossed the river Styx walked through this long path, through the flower bed, and finally reached this place.
Is this a movie theater? I wonder what it's showing.
It's showing a drama called life. His life from birth to death will be shown on this screen.
Who are they?
They're his deceased friends and relatives. Revealed on screen are not just what he did, but also what he thought of during his mortal life.
You mean even what he thought of?
Childhood, elementary school, middle school, high school, getting a job, getting married, changing jobs, divorce, bankruptcy.
You should have been more responsible.
Whatever he went through, and whatever thoughts he had on those occasions, they're all revealed here. After this, he understands and is willing to go to his destination.
Destination?
More than half of the people these days go to a place that is called hell.
More than half? Really?
A lot of people don't believe in the spirit world anymore. They think there's nothing after death and thus live freely. But what awaits them here is a harsh reality. Of course, some of them receive a hail of applause. These people are allowed to go to heaven according to the state of their minds.
Heaven? That sounds good. Wow, heaven.
Do you want to go there?
Huh? To heaven?
The spirit world is all about thoughts. You go to a world that matches the state of your mind. Try and fill your hearts with benevolence.
Benevolence?
So then, do you mean the kind thoughts that one would have for others?
Yeah. Thoughts for others. Like friendship.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you'd like to watch the rest of the movie, please go ahead and go to YouTube and then search The Laws of Eternity. But you know that scene where you're actually shown a movie in front of the people who has deceased before you? This is a reality that's going to come into our lives. And you know how in the first person's life video, the people who are participating and watching after the whole live video, there was like a circle and a triangle and a X on top of each person. So it's kind of like the jury. All the people who passed before you will see, and you're like, he's not heaven, or he's gonna have to go to hell to do some self-reflection, or to a great place in heaven. But this is the reality that is waiting for each and every one of us. Pretty scary, don't you think? So, yeah, I hope you will not come to my life movie. You are not allowed to come. But we do not have that ability to not allow anyone to come in. They can all come in. So, if that's the case, what we're saying is it's awaken to the truth while you're alive on Earth and reflect on the mistakes that you've done. By doing so, you can actually erase those sins. When you go up and when you watch that movie, that bad scene is actually erased and it's turned into golden letters. And so you can always flip, kind of like checkers, you can flip the colors into different, like if there's a negative color, you can flip it to a better color by doing so. So that's the power of self-reflection. But in that movie part we just saw, Master was saying, or not Master, this movie is based on Master's teachings, but Master Okawa, he found out that more than half of the people on Earth right now is falling to hell. More than half. More than half. So there's, if there's 4 people here in the room today, so 2 of them will be falling to hell if it's like, you know, if we apply the average. But that's the reality that Master is seeing right now. And then let's try to put this into like a whole perspective. So from the heavenly world, spirits are born onto this planet Earth to go through soul training, right? But then half of them, not knowing that the spiritual world exists, they fall to hell. So the spiritual truth that's taught in Happy Science is that beings who fell to hell cannot reincarnate into Earth. They cannot reincarnate. They cannot escape until they reflect on their mistakes. Once they reflect on their mistakes, they can actually go back to heaven. It's like a hospital. But instead of reflecting what they do, what's easier for them is to possess someone on Earth who has the same tendency. So that's where possession comes in. And then that's how our judgments that we make can be controlled by negative spirits. The words you use can be controlled by negative spirits. The way we perceive things can be controlled by negative spirits. And that's the danger. So again, going back to the whole picture, more falling to hell, and the more people fall to hell, there's more people coming to Earth to possess the people on Earth, right? And let's say that you pass away by being possessed, you fall to hell again. So this is the perspective that God is saying right now. If that's the case, Master Okawa in Japanese, he gave us a new book, a new Kyouten. It's called The Mindset Necessary When You Fall to Hell. It's a scary book title, a mindset necessary when you fall to hell. But in it, he's saying something very surprising in the beginning. He's saying that if this is the situation, more than half people falling to hell, there could be a day where not a single person would be able to go back to heaven. There could be a day when not a single person can go back up to heaven. So more and more people are falling to hell. Hence, it is a very important task for a religion like Happy Science to spread this truth, to spread this awareness. Just wanted to share that part from this newest book. And then also, the ones that are here today have seen this movie already, The Real Exorcist. So this movie, we're hoping to show it in movie theaters starting August 28th, if not September 4th, but also it'll be on video on demand. But there is a little bit of an excerpt of this movie that relates to today's topic, so let us watch that. It's about 4 minutes.
Sayuri! Please help me! I command you to show yourself.
Dad?
What's that? You have been ignoring me for so long.
You don't realize it, do you? That you are dead.
I'm dead? Is this a joke or something?
Do you remember the last time you had something to eat?
No.
Also, has anyone responded to you when you've talked to them?
No. Why on earth did you throw away the application? You give up just like that? Hey! What are you doing?
I'm sorry, Dad. It was all so sudden.
I can't believe it. There's no way I can leave you. I can't die. At least, not yet.
Oh, I ask of you, may the guiding light of heaven shine onto him.
Even if they're not going down the path you intended for them, both of them have grown up to be fine adults. Was that all you dreamt of? All you wanted was Kazuki to take over the clinic?
Kazuki.
I also feel lucky to have been your daughter.
Yuki, I was so happy that you were born. Having you was more than enough. So much more than enough.
And now, sir, the time has come for you to let go and to free yourself.
Go in peace, knowing you've fulfilled your role as a parent. Come join me on this side of the world and watch over your family.
I've decided, Dad. I'll become a doctor. I'll work really hard, okay?
Unfortunately, not August 7th because of the coronavirus situation, but hopefully 28th or September 4th. Okay, and so there was the question that came up today from one of our phone callers, so I would like to answer that, which was this. Many bad things keep happening to me. I feel that I am being punished. I believe in God and have faith in Him, but sometimes I feel He is not watching over me because so many bad things keep happening. How should I understand this? Is the question we received today. I think this is a very general topic question that we get. First and foremost, when you're filled with suffering, it's very important to ease that pain. I would say recitation of our sutra, the true words spoken by Buddha, or also coming to our temple to do our meditation classes. It really gives you a healing effect. And what's important is allow your mind to have room to be able to accept that there is a chance that you can overcome this. And at first, I say do it from the emotional side, from the spiritual side. Recite sutras or do meditation. Don't do it by yourself. Have a minister or a priest guide you through in the right direction and heal your heart. And then after it's healed, you will start being able to think more, a little more rationally, and give yourself some, how should I say this? You'll be able to observe yourself objectively. And once you start seeing yourself objectively, I'd say from my experience, you start noticing that the pain that was caused was actually caused from your own way of thinking. It was your way of perceiving things, or it was the past mistakes that you've done that's like haunting you back as a karma. So in order to overcome that, you just need to change your tendency of the mind. That's all it is. That's all it is. It doesn't cost a penny. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars to go to therapy. You can do it yourself because you're a child of God. So taking the process of being able to see yourself objectively, in Happy Science we call that wisdom. So you can gain wisdom. Of course, you watched our program today. I'm sure there are a lot of teachings that will help you guide through these kind of sufferings. But also Master Okawa's Kyoutens, which are his books, are also filled with wisdom. So please take a read. So heal your heart, gain wisdom, and there's not a single suffering in life that cannot be healed. Also, if recitation of sutra and gaining wisdom, sometimes that's not enough. When you're going through those critical moments in life, when you feel that things are about to crush you, that's when we need prayers. That's when we definitely need to make that connection for you with El Cantare, which is the name of God. So please use the prayers that we have in Happy Science. I'm sure that will be the best way to be able to overcome your life's difficulties. And there's a little bit of, from this question, I feel that there is a little bit of doubt towards God, but that is what the devils love. They love it when you start doubting God, because that is like the connection, the lifeline connected to the spiritual world that'll give you guidance. So whatever circumstances you're in, please understand that every circumstance, every suffering, every ordeals is actually a love in disguise from God. And once you overcome it, you will notice that that was the best present that was given to you. So don't give up. Okay, so that would be my answer to that question. Thank you for sending us the question today. And so the live stream is going to end here. But for the ones who have joined us today, since today's topic is about the spiritual world, I would like to do a special meditation. It is a meditation to go to the spiritual world, or simply put, astral travel. We're going to try to go to the spiritual world guided by Master Okawa. For those who are watching this, and if you want to do it, please come to the temple and you can do this meditation anytime. So first off, I'd like to say bye to our people who's watching on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.